Hello, my name is Scott Kowalski. I'm the Executive Vice President, Corporate Communications and Marketing at WPS Health Solutions here in Madison. Thanks for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today. I'll give you a little quick background on myself. Went to University of Wisconsin, was from Brookfield, Wisconsin as a high school student. Had the opportunity to work for IBM right out of undergrad, and then went on to law school. One thing I always share with my audiences is that I was an average student. And I wouldn't say I'm overly proud of that, but I want to make the point that I was able to be really successful and had an opportunity to go on to law school and have some pretty good sized jobs and pretty big responsibilities. But what I did find out as I got later along in life is that being an average student had provided some limitations, I guess, or created some limitations for me. I was not able to maybe pursue all of the opportunities that were out there. If I wanted to be an investment banker in New York, that was no longer an opportunity for me because I didn't have the greatest grades. But I persevered, and I continue to learn, grow, and experience along the way. I'm going to share some of those experiences with you today. The other thing I want you to think about while you're out there in COVID world right now is some of the things that you could be doing and some of the things that you shouldn't be doing when you have idle time. I know that's difficult as a high school student, but I do want you to at least think about that. And some of these things are things that your parents have shared with you, maybe your coaches have shared with you, your teachers, but you're going to hear it from me maybe from a slightly different perspective. So I hope you pick up a couple of tidbits along those lines as we sort of experience a new world here with a good chunk of your education online, at least for the foreseeable future. What you do today matters. I'm going to share a case study with you that you may not think is very important when you're in high school, but I will tell you everything I learned and probably everything I draw from today in one way, shape, or form comes from the fact that I worked for my parents' gas stations when I was a kid in the greater Milwaukee area. So I'm going to share with you that what you do today, while it may not seem like a big deal to you, does have implications for you down the road many, many years. We'll talk a little bit about what I call getting your ducks in a row or getting your shop in order. And those are just things you should be doing or shouldn't be doing to prepare yourself appropriately for the future. I have a slide called Kowalski's Commandments, my last name, turned into a 10-point slide that has some of the key things that I think were valuable to me as a young person growing up, and then also as I've learned as I've been 30 years plus in my career that I still draw from today. And the final thing I want to share with you is the concept or the skill of networking. It's super important, and we've heard the concept of it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's a fun saying. It's maybe slightly true, not totally true, but it certainly doesn't help to know people in certain areas, whether that be personal or professional. And I'll share some skills associated with that. So let me share with you my original experience as an employee. So my father had about 10 gas stations around the Milwaukee area from all areas, north side, south side, east side, west side, right downtown. And I learned so much at those gas stations that at the time I thought was kind of a pain. He was paying me $8 an hour. I had a lot to think about. I had other things I wanted to be doing, and pumping gas was not one of them. However, it taught me key skills that I learned today. And I don't want you to undermine those experiences that you have today. You might be schlepping a bag around a golf course right now. You might be working at a Cousin's Subs or a McDonald's. It doesn't matter what. The 4 or 5 points that I learned from that experience still help me today. Number one was dependability. It is amazing how many people do not show up for work or do not show up for work on time ready to go. And I will tell you, if you are dependable and your employer can rely on you to work on time, that is 90% of the battle, because it's amazing how many young people out there just do not show up ready to roll. The second thing is customer relations. So in a very rudimentary form, I'm pumping gas on a gas station parking lot, and these are still my customers. I'm representing our brand. I'm representing my father who owns the business. Then I'm representing myself as a 16, 17-year-old high school student. So those customer interactions were critical. And the customers were different all over Milwaukee, as you can imagine. Different by race, different by socioeconomic background, different by creed. And I got to know people in all those different areas, and it really, really helped me understanding people as I got into my professional career. So if you're in any sort of a retail environment right now or a services environment, do not diminish the importance that is in developing your skills with people. Responsibility. I had a lot of responsibility. I was given the keys to the business. I was given access to the cash register. I had access to hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars on a daily basis. My dad could count on me because he knew I probably wasn't going to steal from the family. We had other employees, as it turns out, who did steal from our family. So it was very nice that he was able to rely on me because he knew I'd be there on time and that I wouldn't steal from the family. And the fourth thing I said, and I kind of touched on already, is a brand. You are working for somebody and representing somebody, and how you conduct yourself in your employment is critical to frankly, your future and the likelihood that you will keep that job. So I knew that if I didn't show up to work on time, ready to roll, that I kept my hands to myself and kept them out of the till. That means I didn't steal. And that my customers might even be so happy with how I interacted with them that they may come around and tell my father what a good kid I was. That was very important. That's called a reference. That's called somebody sticking up for you or saying you're a quality employee. So those are all things that happen still yet today, even as a professional. I only have about 35 people reporting to me, but I've had as many as 500. And that's still important to me, that my employees would go to my boss or maybe my peers and say, it's really great to work with Scott. He brings it every day. He's reliable, he's dependable, and our customers love him. And that's important as a 16-year-old high school kid. That's important as a 53-year-old executive. Trust me. So you got to get your shop in order. And I say this as much that today for what you can be doing as much as what you shouldn't be doing. There's an old saying that says idle hands do the devil's work. And that is true for adults, and that is true for young people. That if you're not busy and you're not kept busy, sometimes with 3 or 4 jobs, you find other negative things to do. So I will share with you that keeping your nose clean, another comment you probably heard from your parents, is super important. All the way up to graduation from high school, as many of us have experienced our family friends getting underage drinking tickets on the very last night of school for the old senior party. Those things matter. Those end up on a police blotter, and those are something that are going to stick with you for a while. So think about those things very, very carefully. Stay away from the law, follow the rules, because into your adulthood, these things will either continue to haunt you or be sort of an indication of how you conduct yourself as an adult. So start young and make good decisions early on in that sense. Personal lifestyle. Drugs and alcohol, I don't want to get into that. You've heard plenty of that. Those are all situations that can derail an otherwise very, very good career, or the start of a very good career. So your parents tell you to make good choices on that. I'm a parent of 2 children as well who've gone through that same time frame. Make good choices on that because they will haunt you. Relationships. Very important as relationships right now. And I found in my coaching experience and in raising my own 2 children that confidence, judging, reaction to relationships and how people judge you are critically important to your own mental health and well-being. So take things with a grain of salt. If you're in a relationship that's not constructive, this holds true for adults, get out of it or reevaluate it. These are things that can derail you. So be mature and have the discipline to analyze the relationships that you're in. And sometimes it's very, very difficult. Legal issues I mentioned, again, school discipline I mentioned, stay away from. I'm not equipped to discuss mental health, but I've had experiences with both of my children as they've grown up and are now both college students, that mental health issues are real. And for someone like me from my era, we didn't talk about those things. We wouldn't bring those up to our parents. I'm proud that my kids feel comfortable bringing those issues to us and seek the assistance that they need. My son in particular had one of his best hockey player friends pass away from a car accident. My son had never dealt with death before. I was kind of immune to that. So I had experience with that. I completely overlooked the fact that my son wasn't equipped to deal with that and sought help on his own. So I was very, very proud of him that he did that. So don't wait on those things. Those are very, very serious and have implications down the road. And I will tell you, nobody's judging you. Everybody has issues. Everybody has things they need to address. Feel free to get professional help on that, and people around you will support you. I can assure you of that. And the last thing is keep working on your confidence. I mentioned that. As I coached kids and I've mentored other young professionals, confidence is everything. The more comfortable you feel in your own skin, the more comfortable you feel with your own brand, the more comfortable maybe you feel with your own language, if English isn't your primary language. Understand, use that as an advantage. That's super cool. I love to look at employees or potential employees that speak Spanish. My son was painting all summer. He couldn't find another job. His job that he had last summer wasn't able to work out this summer because of COVID. He got a painting job. And he made lemonade into lemons, or lemons into lemonade, because his whole painting crew was Latino. And my son had 2 years of high school or of college Spanish, but he wasn't very effective in speaking Spanish. Well, guess what? An entire summer of speaking Spanish with 30 other Spanish-speaking painters got him pretty proficient in Spanish. So there's an example of taking something that might have been otherwise intimidating and turning it into a positive. He can now put that on his resume that he's conversational in Spanish. So that's a cool extra skill to have. That has now given him confidence in that space and confidence with a whole other culture, frankly, because he hadn't spent a lot of time with Latino adults, to be honest. So let's talk about Kowalski's commandments. These are my 10 favorite things. These are things I wish I would have known and really concentrated on when I was a high school student. I think I started to learn about this in college and then as a young professional and certainly as an executive. Number one is work hard. There's no substitute for working hard, and we know what these people look like. These are the people that we want to pick first on our team. These are the kids that are picked first in kickball because they work hard. They're the kids that are picked first on the debate team. They're the kids that get the whack at the first internship because they've impressed upon somebody that they bring it every day and they work hard. And no matter how smart you are, how well connected you are, how you look, how you act, how you work is number one. And that's why it's number one on my list. Never quit. Number two is take initiative. And I've mentored a lot of high school kids. In fact, I'm in the process right now of working with my college-age nephew, who's just about ready to graduate. And he has very little lined up post-college. And it's very frustrating to me and frustrating to his father. So he and I have been chatting, and since he won't listen to his dad, maybe he'll listen to Uncle Scott. So we've been working a little bit, and I can't impress upon enough how important it is that no matter how much I help him and how much I cue things up for him and steer him in the right direction, that he has to deliver. He has to take initiative, and he has to keep doing it. Well, I sent that resume 2 months ago. 2 months ago? Are you kidding me? That's like a lifetime. So what have you done to follow up on that? What other supporting documentation have you provided? What other timelines have you said to maybe get a connection to get in front of a camera with somebody? Because a lot of these interviews are being done now via camera in remote or virtual settings. So what are you doing to advance your cause? I can give him all the tips in the world, but he's got to pick up the ball and run with it. Number three is be dependable. And I mentioned that in my experience with the family gas stations is you got to show up and you got to be on time. If people expect you to be there and they're not there, you might get one pass on that. And that might be after you've shown up every single time on time for the previous 5 years. But early on in your career, if you have a reputation of being undependable, independable, not good. So say what you say, mean what you mean, and deliver and be dependable. Number four, be curious. Again, this is easier as you get older because you have a lot of structured education. You're in the middle of it right now, and it only gets more challenging if you go on to college, which most of you will, and then on to grad school if that happens as well, and probably 30% of you will. So your education gets even more structured. So it's hard to think about things outside of the classroom. But I'm a curious person, and I think for me it's been a godsend to be always wondering and asking questions about other things. I meet somebody, it's highly unlikely at this point in my life, in my career, that I don't know what that person does when they explain it to me. But if they don't, I'm like, this is awesome. I have no idea what this person does. I've never heard of that skill or that career before. Tell me about what you do, what all that entails. That continually allows me the ability to learn and then to profess knowledge in that particular area down the road. As you start to get out of structured education, you'll have an opportunity to do that. Perhaps even now with COVID, you'll have a little downtime and the opportunity maybe to think about getting a professional license. And when I say that, I mean not necessarily your real estate license or your life insurance license, which is something you want to consider down the road because it's always nice to have, but your boater safety license, your hunter safety license, maybe your babysitting childcare license. Those are all things that you can do now that don't take a lot of time. Most of you know how to bang that out in 4-hour or 6-hour classes online, and now you have a little certificate that you can add to your resume. And when I see that, when I'm hiring, and someone says, yeah, I use some of my downtime outside of the classroom, outside of the structured education, to gain an additional skill or earn an additional certificate or license, that catches my attention. That's a person who's taking initiative, who's going above and beyond what's just required. That person gets moved to the right side of my desk. Of all the 50 resumes I'm looking at, that's someone that's demonstrating to me that's going above and beyond just what is expected of them. So be curious and continue to challenge yourself and poke and probe and learn. I say with lifelong learning, also weave that into your passions. A lot of us have, music happens to be my passion. Cycling is a passion. Hunting is a passion. I have all kinds of different passions, and I follow those, and I realize that most of the people that I bump into on a daily basis have similar passions. And those things are what connect us. So the likelihood of me forging a really strong professional relationship with somebody stems a lot from the fact that we have similar interests personally, outside of the 9-to-5 workday. So don't be afraid to follow your passions. If you're fortunate enough, you're able to turn that into a career. whether that's a musician or a writer or an actor. That's wonderful, but many of us can't. Many of us are making our living in some other professional capacity, and we're doing that on the side as maybe a hobby or maybe a supplemental income. But don't be embarrassed with your passions. Don't hide those at the very, very bottom of your resume. In fact, I like to look at that first on a resume, because what am I going to see at the top? Education. 3.8, Dean's List, Princeton, Northwestern, you name it. Stevens Point, lacrosse, you name it. So I'm going to see the education, and that's fine, and that's sort of what everybody has. And that's sort of what we call table stakes, right? You need that to get in the game. But as we move down the resume, always at the bottom are other interests. I like to see that because that tells me a lot more about the person. Would I want this person on my team? Are they creative? Did they start a new club? Did they excel in athletics and carry that to another level, maybe even something beyond high school? I want to hear about those experiences. If you've traveled around the country with an athletic team or with your band, or you started a club at UW-Milwaukee, those are all things I want to hear about, and they'll separate you as an individual. So don't be ashamed of those, highlight those, and as soon as you can bring those out in a discussion in an interview, please do it. Along those same lines, as I said, is bring something unique. I'm looking for something that I haven't seen before. And most of the applicants in our positions, and I've hired 6 people, that's another interesting tidbit. I've hired 6 people during COVID in the last 3 months. We have a fairly small team. That's about 15 to 20% of my team are newly hired. So this is a great time to be exploring opportunities, exploring careers. People like me are a little bit landlocked right now. We're out there, we're stuck in our home offices. We're a lot more accessible via LinkedIn, via email, even via cell phone. Now is a great time to reach out to people and explore career opportunities and to learn from people and get some mentoring, because a lot of us are landlocked right now and not in our offices, distracted by the other things that happen when you're in a large office. So take advantage of that. When I'm talking to people and I'm listening to the 6 people, I've seen my managers will bring me several resumes. I'll look at them. They'll tell me they have 2 or 3 people they're interested in. I'll say, tell me about what would make them a unique team member. What do they bring to the team that we currently don't already have? What perspective? What life experience? What is their socioeconomic background, race, all those things? I want to look at that. I want a diverse team. So I don't shy away from that, and I think more and more hiring people are much more open to that. So don't worry about that. Highlight your differences and highlight your uniquenesses and bring those forward. Overcome adversity. I've had a health scare in my life that really, really scared me about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's something I'm passionate about now with heart and brain health. So I turned it into a positive. I learned about what it was that caused my health challenge, and I really got passionate about helping others and raising awareness about that particular affliction. But the other thing I noticed too is that there were a lot of other people that had the exact same thing that I had, only they didn't turn out nearly as positively. So it was a very humbling experience for me, and I have a little bit of what I guess you would call guilt when I see other people that weren't as fortunate as me to pop out of it. So my response is to double down and help folks who haven't been as fortunate as I have. But my point is that everybody has issues, and we learn that as adults, that no matter how challenging things are that we're facing, there's always somebody to your right or to your left that's got challenges that are as bad as yours, if not more. So when you stop playing the victim and you get over the fact that you've got some challenges that you have overcome, understand that there are others out there that are much worse off. And as I get older, that's been very, very helpful to me, and I hope it can be helpful to you as young people, young adults. Along those same lines is giving back. It's very easy early in our careers, and certainly as high schoolers, and I know this is having 2 kids who are still developing at 21 and 19, that it's a very selfish time. You're taking a lot. You're expected to deliver as well. Your parents and your teachers and coaches are expecting that. But you're also taking a lot. You're requiring fertilizer and water and sun and caring and feeding to help you grow. But it's been really fulfilling to me to see some of our young people that are interning. We have 30 interns at WPS right now. I have 2 of them on my team. It's been very fulfilling to see their backgrounds and how those kids have given back already. And a lot of you have to have 30 or 40 or 50 hours of community service time, I think, even to graduate. I love that. I wish they would have had that when I was in high school. We were really forced us to get out there and give back to our communities. But when I see that on a resume, or when I'm interacting with one of our younger employees and they've already had experiences where they're able to give back, that is super helpful to the team and super helpful to the communities in which we hire them, because we have 9 offices around the country. So give back when you have the opportunity. Last is join, then lead. I'm a big fan of joining, and I don't care what you join. You can join the band, you can join the football team, you can join the debate team, the beekeeping team, it doesn't matter. Join something and then lead. We all look for leaders in our businesses. So when we see people that have started in a group, maybe got on a committee, organized the annual party or the annual event or did the fundraiser, and then become the president or the executive director of that club, that catches our eye. And that leadership skill in that little area will translate to other areas. So I always say, join, then lead, and I don't care what it is. My last comments are going to be on networking and networking nuances. And a lot of those Kowalski commandments and a lot of the experiences that I shared are all actually networking experience. So a lot of people think of networking as going to a party, if you're an adult, going to a cocktail party or a mixer or something like that. And that's intimidating. I'm not good at that. I'm uncomfortable in that. Does my hair look right? Who's judging me? Those people seem to be doing it really well. I'm not. It's an intimidating environment. That is also a small part of what networking is. Some people are good at that. I have one sibling. My sister and I are 11 months apart. I will walk into a room and within 45 minutes have 20 business cards or numbers or LinkedIn accounts or whatever. My sister is watching her watch after 4 minutes to get out of the room. So we are completely different. Yet I would say both of us are very well connected in our communities, me in Madison and her in Houston, Texas. But we go about it very differently. So don't be turned off with the concept of networking. Networking means getting to know people, trusting people, caring about people, as much learning about that person as they are learning about you. In fact, more so, probably 80-20 if you're good at it. And finding an environment in which you're comfortable. So if it's online, great. And again, use that in a constructive environment, not just useless Instagramming all the time, but using that as a constructive tool to network and to learn more. If you are in a group setting and you are comfortable walking up to people, certainly people like me would be more than welcome, would welcome the opportunity to talk to a young person and to share our experiences if you're so interested. So you'd be surprised at how receptive people are to that approach. So when you get more confident, and it will happen as you get older and you overcome some of that uncomfortable feeling, you'll get much more effective at it, and that'll be one of the tools in your networking sort of arsenal. Make the extra effort. So I'm always the person in the room, and I cannot tell you how many times I think of, well, the negative thing is you want to do that one last run when you're a skier. And the one last time I said that, I tore my ACL. So there's probably a positive and a negative to this, but I like to be one of the last guys in the room. Or I like to say, you know what, I'm ready to leave now. I'm tired. I need to drive or whatever else. I need to get home to my family. But I'm going to meet one last person. And I will tell you on more than one occasion, that last person that I met was really the game changer. So do one more introduction before you leave an event. Meet one last person. Use an opportunity to capture all that information in some sort of I don't know if it's a spreadsheet, or there are plenty of tools on your phones right now that you can do. There are people that I met in high school and in college who I still bounce ideas off of. And they're not students. They're not peers of mine. They're people I met along the way. So you never know when you're going to be able to use the experience of meeting somebody down the road. Everyone you meet, put it in your phone. And 20 years later, you may draw upon it. You'll never know. Mix your business with your personal pleasure. People like to say, don't do that. Never mix business with pleasure. I do all the time. I think it's what brings us together. Work is a large part of what we do when we're professionals, but it's really a small part of what brings us the most happiness. Our family, our personal interests, our weekends, those are all things that bring us a lot of interest. Why would we not talk about those in a business setting? So in appropriate conditions, I kind of mix everything together, and that way people get to know me and I get to know them. Help others make connections. This is kind of an advanced networking skill as you get older. I realized I've been around now, so I have thousands of contacts. I get as much joy from putting people together and playing sort of matchmaker as I do from meeting new people. Because I think I can provide more value right now than that. I really don't need to meet more people from a professional standpoint, but it's been very helpful to help other people get their careers off the ground because I can connect them with somebody that I know. So sooner than you think, you'll be able to help direct people to other folks that you have met along the way. I said track your contacts, recruit a mentor. One of the things I did not do until much later in my career was recruit somebody who I trust, who I can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and doesn't judge me, gives me constructive feedback, tells me things I don't do very well or could improve upon, which is always hard. It's a hard person to find, and it took me almost my entire career to find that person. But when I did, as an executive, my career took off. And I think my improvement as a manager was noticeable because I got very honest feedback from this mentor whom I trusted. And the last thing is do this consistently. So networking isn't something that you just turn on and say, hey, I've completed my schoolwork, I've finished practicing my athletic activities, or I've finished my shift at work, I'm gonna go do some networking. That's not really how that works. The most effective networkers are doing it all the time. So for me, it's a sixth sense. It's just something I'm doing all the time. Introducing myself to somebody, asking somebody about them, about their family, how things are going. It's nonstop. And I'm always making mental notes of people that I've met and opportunities to reconnect with them later. So again, it's a skill that takes time to develop, but it is super, super powerful. And when there comes a time when you need a favor, you're in a pinch, you're in a job interview, you need to meet somebody, you'll have this whole nice spreadsheet or Rolodex, as we used to call it in the old days, of people who you can draw upon. So it is ongoing, and it will start very small as a high school student. That's okay. Start with people you know, family, friends, people from school, people from athletic experiences, your church, your clubs, everything. Start real small. Add those people to your contact list, and it'll just keep growing. And by the time you've been in the business for 30 years, you'll have thousands of contacts. So that's my final thought on networking. These guys can provide you with my contact information if any teachers or students want to get a hold of me to delve a little deeper into any of these subjects. I spend a lot of time with our interns at WPS. It's one of the committees that I'm on, our intern development committee. And tomorrow, actually, we're going to have 30 of them deliver to the executive staff, the 16 of us that make up the executive staff, their end of summer project. So we're looking forward to watching these 30 young people present their end of year project to us to wrap up this summer. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity and have a great fall.